Philip Siefka braked hard once. One time. The next day, Progressive already had it, because Toyota sold it. The FTC spent 2 years proving General Motors sold every hard brake, every late-night drive, every speeding second to insurance companies without asking. The question this video answers: what's the one thing your truck can have that makes all of that impossible? Philip Siefka's story begins with a single drive across Eagle Lake, Florida. One hard brake in his 2021 Toyota, recorded by the car's telematics, was all it took. The next day, Progressive had the data. By month's end, his premium jumped 23%. Siefka's December 15, 2024 complaint says he never authorized Progressive to receive his location or speed data, and that his insurance rate increased by 23% within 3 months of his vehicle's factory-installed telematics activation. Progressive's official response, dated December 20, 2024, insists that all data exchanges are governed by the driver's consent at the point of purchase. But Siefka's case did not stop there. In April 2025, his complaint became part of a federal lawsuit in Texas, Case 425 CV-00406, alleging Toyota, Progressive, and Connected Analytics Services built a system that streamed GPS, speed, and braking data to third-party brokers, all without clear consent. The suit says Toyota knowingly installed Connected Analytics Services hardware in the vehicle's telematics module, which intercepted and transmitted the plaintiff's precise location, speed, and braking data to third-party data brokers without the plaintiff's express consent, in violation of the Federal Wiretap Act, 18 U.S.C. Section 2510, subsection 1. Siefka is not alone. In January 2025, the FTC filed a complaint against General Motors and OnStar, docket FTC-2025-00123, accusing GM of selling millions of drivers' GPS, speed, and engine status data to marketers and insurers. The FTC press release was blunt. Drivers are entitled to know exactly who is watching them and why. The final consent order, issued January 27, 2026, bars GM from selling driver data for 5 years and imposes a $12.5 million fine, the largest privacy penalty ever for an automaker. States are taking action. In March 2025, the California Consumer Privacy Agency fined Honda $632,500 for sending telemetry to insurers without an opt-out. The Texas Attorney General sued Allstate in January 2025, seeking $10 million for buying driver data without consent. These cases reveal a pattern. Automakers and insurers have built a surveillance pipeline that starts in the garage and ends in a boardroom. Mozilla's February 2025 policy blog warned that when automakers and insurers combine forces, they create a vehicle-based surveillance network that tracks you from the moment you start the engine. The outrage is about more than privacy. If your own truck can report on you without permission, what does ownership mean in 2026? The 1994 model year stands as a line in the sand, the last before the OBD-II mandate, before data ports became standard, and before connected services and software-mediated oversight became normal. The legal fight over Siefka's hard brake is just the start. The real question is this: is there any way left to OPT out, legally, mechanically, and for good? Federal filings tell the real story behind the headlines. On January 13, 2025, the FTC filed complaint. FTC 2025-00123 against General Motors and OnStar, laying out in black and white how driver GPS, speed, and engine data ended up in the hands of marketers and insurance carriers. The complaint spells it out. GM and its OnStar subsidiary collected, retained, and sold, without express consumer consent, granular telematics, including hard brake events, nighttime mileage, and speed exceedance data to LexisNexis, which in turn furnished the information to at least 12 insurance carriers for underwriting and rate-setting purposes. The penalty was historic. On January 27, 2026, the FTC issued Consent Order FTC 2026-00124, imposing a 5-year ban on GM selling any vehicle-derived telematics data and a $12.5 million fine, the largest privacy penalty ever handed down to an automaker. The order requires GM to implement a clear opt-in system for any future data sales, with compliance reports due every quarter for 5 years. GM's own statement released the same day reads, "We respect driver privacy and have taken decisive steps to align our data sharing practices with FTC expectations. States have not waited for federal action." On March 15, 2025, the California Consumer Privacy Agency fined Honda $632,500, case CACPPA 2025-019, for failing to provide an opt-out for telematics data sales. The agency's press release is blunt. Honda Motor Company Limited failed to provide required opt-out mechanisms for vehicle telematics data, thereby violating California Civil Code Section 1798.150. The agency assesses a civil penalty of $632,500 and orders immediate compliance with a 30-day remediation plan. Legal filings keep stacking up. The Texas Attorney General's office filed suit against Allstate in January 2025, alleging the insurer used OnStar-derived driver data to set premiums without proper disclosure, in violation of the Texas Insurance Code. Meanwhile, the federal case Sifka v. Toyota, Progressive and Connected Analytic Services, case number 4:25CV00406, details how Toyota's telematics module streamed location, speed, and braking data to Progressive and a third-party broker, all without the owner's express consent. The complaint, filed April 21, 2025, cites the Federal Wiretap Act, Title 18 U.S. Code, Section 2510, Subsection 1, as the legal basis. Industry groups have weighed in. The owner-operator Independent Drivers Association, in a December 2022 letter to the FMCSA, argued that older trucks lack the ECU-level connectivity required for ELD compliance, and that a blanket exemption would avoid unnecessary retrofits. The FMCSA's own docket, FMC 2024-0145, acknowledges that the agency proposes to maintain the pre-2000 exemption pending further study. Every one of these filings, fines, and consent orders points to the same reality. Regulators now treat vehicle telematics as a regulated pipeline, not a private feature. The 1994 model year is not just a number, it is the last documented cohort before federal and state law made the data port mandatory. According to the documents I pulled, the legal line is drawn not by nostalgia, but by statute and docket number. Every truck built since 1996 carries the same secret, a standardized 16-pin data port tucked beneath the dash. That port, J1962, is the handshake that lets any scanner, insurance dongle, or state emissions tool tap directly into the vehicle's brain. But 1994 stands apart, caught between eras, with diagnostics that look familiar on the surface but hide a world of difference underneath. Most people call it OBD, onboard diagnostics, and there are 3 generations: OBD-I, OBD-1.5, and OBD-II. OBD-I was the Wild West. Each manufacturer used its own codes, connectors, and service tricks. By 1994, some trucks started getting partial electronic modules, what mechanics call OBD 1.5. They might have an engine control unit or an electronic fuel pump, but there is no universal language or plug. The rules did not change until OBD-II, when the Environmental Protection Agency and the California Air Resources Board made the 16-pin J1962 connector mandatory for 1996 and newer light trucks. That is the port every emissions tester and telematics device looks for today. Here is where it gets tricky. Ford's 1994 lineup is a VIN minefield. Early year F-250s and F-350s run the 7.3-liter IDI diesel with a mechanical Stanadyne DB2 pump, no computer, no data port, just pure hardware. But mid-year, Ford started rolling out the Power Stroke with an electronic P7100 pump. Service bulletins from 1994 spell it out. If your VIN starts with one FT6 and the serial is above 3,500,000, you have the electronic pump and a basic K-line diagnostic port. Still, even those do not have the OBD-II connector, so they dodge the modern telematics dragnet. If you are looking at a 1994 truck, check for the JMI962 port under the dash. If it is missing, you are holding a piece of mechanical sovereignty. The VIN and engine code tell the rest of the story. That is why 1994 is the last year you can still buy a truck that is invisible to the systems that now run the roads. There's a simple way to tell if a 1994 truck is outside the modern surveillance dragnet. I've spent enough time under the hood and in the archives to know the difference isn't just a story, it's stamped in metal and mechanical. Start with the fuel system. If you're looking at a Ford F-250 or F-350 from early 1994, the injection pump should be a Stanadyne DB2. You'll find a mechanical throttle linkage, a thick cast iron housing, and no wiring harness leading to the pump. Service bulletins from Ford in 1994 list the DB2 on trucks with vehicle identification number serials below 3,500,000. Anything above that usually means a switch to the electronic P7100 pump. That one has a compact control module bolted to the side and a bundle of wires running to a K-line diagnostic port. It is not the OBD-II plug. It is a proprietary 4-pin socket tucked behind the battery tray. On a Dodge Ram with the 5.9-liter, 12-valve Cummins, look for the classic Bosch P7100. It's an inline mechanical pump, all gears and rods, no computer in sight. Chevy and GMC diesels from the same year use the DB2 or the early DS4 pump. The DS4 is electronic, but still OBD-I. You won't find a 16-pin J1962 connector under the dash on any of these trucks. That's the key: no universal data port, no handshake for telematics dongles or emission scanners. I've tried plugging in a modern insurance tracker, nothing happens. The device just blinks, looking for a signal that isn't there. If you want to be sure, snap a photo of the vehicle identification number plate and the engine code. The 8th digit tells you the engine family, and the 10th confirms the model year. Cross-check that with the pump's ID tag. A DB2 or P7100 means you're holding a piece of mechanical independence. There's no software update, no silent data stream, no regulatory backdoor. That's how you verify, not just with paperwork, but with your own hands and eyes. In 1994, 3 diesel trucks stood apart: Ford's 7.3-liter IDI, Dodge's 12-valve Cummins, and Chevy's 6.5-liter. Built just before OBD-II, they mark the end of an era. Machines that keep their secrets, immune to digital tracking and remote diagnostics. Service bulletins and shop records tell the story. These are not just relics, they are practical workhorses with predictable costs and quirks. The Ford 7.3-liter IDI uses a Stanadyne DB2 mechanical pump, no computer, no sensors. Injector replacement averages $1,200 for parts and labor, according to Mitchell. 1 and Chilton. Owners routinely see 400,000 miles before injectors need attention. One Ohio owner shared a photo of his odometer at 511,000 miles, crediting regular oil changes and a new lift pump every few years. The turbo is tuned for longevity, but a $900 kit can restore lost power. There is no OBD port, just cables and levers, a firewall between driver and data collection. The Dodge 5.9-liter Cummins is famous for its durability. Its P7100 Bosch pump is all mechanical, and the transmission choice matters. The NV4 5005 speed manual, rebuilt for between $4,200 and $4,800, is the preferred option, widely available, and reliable. The 47RH automatic costs less upfront, but struggles under heavy loads and is pricier to rebuild. A Montana owner put 600,000 miles on his 1994 with the NV4500, saying it never left him stranded. Chevy's 6.5-liter diesel is more complicated. Early models use the DB2 pump, but most 1994s have the DS4 electronic pump, still OBD-I. The main issue is the PMD, the pump-mounted driver, which overheats in the intake. Relocating it to the bumper costs $50 and takes about an hour. One owner recalled his truck stalling 3 times before the fix, and since then it has run without a hitch. Running these trucks is not cheap, but expenses are straightforward: diesel, parts, and the occasional big repair. What you avoid is surveillance and algorithmic control. For many, that is worth every dollar. Gasoline trucks from 1994 carry their own kind of legend. The Ford F-150 of that year, what people call OBS, old body style, runs a 4.9-liter inline-6 or a 5.0-liter or 5.8-liter V8, all fed by a mechanical throttle cable. There is no drive-by-wire, no electronic throttle body, and no OBD-II port under the dash. It uses a basic EEC4 module for spark and fuel, but it is OBD-I at best, a jumpered code reader, not a surveillance backdoor. The result is an everyday work truck that still answers to a wrench, not a laptop. The Toyota Land Cruiser FZJ80 is a different beast, but the story is similar. Its 4.5-liter 1 FZFE straight 6 is famous for running past 300,000 miles with regular oil changes. The throttle is mechanical, the transfer case is lever actuated, and the solid axles front and rear are built for decades, not just warranty periods. There is no OBD-II port, just a diagnostic jumper in the fuse box. Enthusiasts know about the 1 FZFE head gasket issue. If it has not been replaced, expect a $2,500 bill at a good shop. Once that is done, the FZJ80 is about as close as you will get to a global overlander that shrugs off digital oversight. Market values reflect the shift. Clean 1994 F-150s, especially the 4x4s or short beds, are now listed from $7,000 to $18,000, depending on mileage and originality. FZJ80 Land Cruisers, especially with factory lockers and proof of head gasket work, routinely sell for $15,000 to $50,000. These are not just numbers, they are a measure of the value for vehicles that cannot be flagged, scanned, or remotely shut down. The culture around these trucks is as much about shared knowledge as it is about hardware. Forums like FTE and IH8MUD have sticky threads on VIN decoding, parts cross-references, and pre-OBD maintenance tricks. Owners swap tips on how to keep throttle cables smooth, replace bushings, and track down the right relays. There is pride in knowing you can diagnose a misfire with a paperclip and a timing light, not a $500 scan tool. In a world where even a minor insurance claim can trigger a data trail, these trucks are a last stand for mechanical independence, open to anyone willing to get their hands dirty and keep the legacy alive. Maryland's DMV sent out 72,000 letters on July 1, 2025. Each one landed with the same message. If your vehicle is a 1998 model or older, your historic tag status is gone. The new rule, buried in House Bill 2025-042, locks the cutoff at 1999, ending the old rolling 20-year exemption. I pulled the budget filing myself. The agency expects $6 million in new revenue from owners forced to pay for inspections and standard registration. A local official told WMAR2 the difference between a 1999 and a 2000 model is a grill. The law treats them the same. California has taken it further. The California Air Resources Board Clean Truck Check Memo 2024-15 ties every renewal to emissions compliance. Fail to upload OBD-II data and the DMV puts a hold on your registration, No exceptions for trucks built after 1995. Owners of pre-1996 diesels get flagged for review, and if your vehicle identification number pops up in the electronic database, you are now in a queue for historic tag audits or forced tailpipe tests. Nevada's Smog Spotter program, launched in 2024, lets anyone report a smoky diesel with a smartphone. The DMV's Environmental Compliance Unit sends an inspection notice. If you do not respond in 30 days, your registration is frozen and you face a penalty of $3,500. The enforcement order, NV-E NV-2025-007, spells it out in black and white. On the federal side, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, docket FMC-2024-0145, asks whether the pre-2000 electronic logging device exemption should stay. The owner-operator Independent Drivers Association, in a December 2022 letter, argued that older trucks simply lack the wiring for electronic logs. But the agency's request for public comment makes clear the window for mechanical independence is closing. Owners I spoke to are watching their mailboxes, waiting for the next letter, the next audit, the next fine. The pressure is not theoretical anymore. It is on paper, with a deadline. A 1994 truck, properly documented, can still claim its place on American roads. The process begins with proof, a clear photo of the VIN plate, the engine code tag, and for diesels, the pump ID, Stannardine, DB2 for Ford, and P7100 for Dodge. The 8th digit of the VIN reveals the engine family, and the 10th digit reveals the model year. Registration papers and maintenance records, kept together, form a defense against questions from state agencies. When a folder holds these details, it becomes the owner's shield. State rules. Shift with the seasons. An exemption map, updated as of April 2026, tracks where pre-OBD-II vehicles still qualify for historic or collector tags. Maryland now demands annual inspections for 1994 trucks, while Texas continues to honor the federal ELD exemption for pre-2000 models. A PDF of this map, along with relevant statutes, belongs both in the glove box and on a phone. If flagged by a DMV notice or registration hold, swift action matters. Most states allow appeals or manual inspections. VIN photos, proof of no J1962 port, and a reference to the EPA 1996 OBD-II rule, Federal Register, August 30, 1996, often resolve the issue. A resource pack with sample appeal letters, exemption codes, and a direct EPA link is available in the description. Mechanical sovereignty is defended one record at a time. Right now, state departments of motor vehicles are rewriting the rules, sometimes monthly, sometimes in closed sessions. According to the Federal Trade Commission's 2026 report, every model newer than 1994 is automatically enrolled in a data economy you cannot see. These trucks are not loopholes. They are the last mechanical line you can legally draw. As the window tightens, the choice to opt out is shrinking fast. If you have questions, drop them in the comments below.